Hello everyone. In the previous session, as part of basics, we learned about how to create a standalone task. With the same task definition, what we used earlier, we want to launch right now a service. Because the problem with the standalone task, what we have observed is, every task is an individual component. It is not controlled by any of the ECS service. One more thing is nothing but, if I want to perform some deployment strategies, let us say today I have installed one version, I want to upgrade it. Or let us say in the new version we have found some bugs, I want to roll back the changes. How we can perform this particular task? That is one of the requirement. Another requirement is, I want to allow the access from outside of the network. I want to integrate a load balancer to my task to access the application. So how we can perform these things? And one another important point is nothing but, I want to perform auto scaling as well, to increase the number of tasks or to reduce the number of tasks based on the CPU utilization or memory utilization. So these are the additional functionalities what I'm looking for, which I cannot do it with the standalone task. For that reason, we have to create a service-based task. Let us follow the steps. Under the cluster, we can see service tab, and then we have to select create. Again, under the compute configuration, we have two strategies. Either we can select capacity provider or launch type. For now, as part of the basics, I will select launch type and then EC2. After this, the application type is right now a service. With the help of which task definition? The one what we created earlier, with revision number 1 by default. Let me provide a name to the service. For example, I will give here Nginx demo service. Here there are two types of services that we can spin up, either replication or daemon. What does it mean? Replication in the sense, irrespective with the number of nodes that you have in your cluster, I want to create a task that is called as replication. For example, you have 5 compute plane nodes. I want to create only 3 replicas for my application what I'm deploying. The 3 tasks might be launched on the same node, or if you have selected high availability, it might be distributed on multiple compute nodes running on each node. Or else let us say there is another requirement. If I select daemon, there is no replication concept here. What does it mean? Number of nodes is equal to number of tasks, which means that every task will get scheduled on each and every node. That is the reason why if you have 10 compute nodes, 10 tasks will get created, each task running on one node. That's a functionality of daemon. In what scenarios have to go for daemon set? If that application needs to be installed on all the nodes of your cluster, then we have to go for daemon. In all other conditions, we have to go for replica. Let me try to use replica for now and select the option 3. Deployment options, deployment failure detection, we will talk about that in detail. What is rolling update? What is blue-green deployment? Because in AWS, we have different types of deployment strategies. One is in-place deployment, one is blue-green deployment, we have canary deployment, we have linear deployment, and then we have all at once deployment as well. Different strategies. For now, it is selected with rolling update. That is a default option of deployment strategy. Then service connection, we'll talk about that. Service discovery as well, we will talk in the upcoming sessions. Finally, networking. In this is the VPC what I have to use, and under that I want to pick only private subnets. Remove this public subnets from the list. And I want to use existing security group, which we have created earlier for standalone. Let me select that. After that, load balancer integration, we have a individual topic for it, how to integrate application load balancer or network load balancer to your ECS service. And then service auto scaling. Here, I want to enable auto scaling, which is similar to auto scaling group in EC2. But here it is called as service auto scaling, but the functionalities will be the same. What is it? First, we have to specify minimal. At the worst condition, how many tasks you want to run for this particular service? Minimal. Either this value has to be equivalent to desired state, this value, or it has to be less than that. It cannot be greater than desired task. Let me try to give here 3, and maximum I want to go for 5. And then target tracking. So how you want to do this particular scaling task? Either scale in or scale out. I want to perform based on the metric called CPU utilization or memory utilization. For now, I want to go for CPU utilization. If the CPU is crossing 70% on an average of this particular task of the service, then it has to scale out. Scale out in the sense what? Increase the number of tasks one by one, with the cooldown of 300 seconds by default, or scale in cooldown of 300 seconds. What does it mean? For every scale in or scale out it has to wait for 300 seconds. That's a time interval what I want to give for scale in and scale out. If you want to turn off this particular scale in, you can select this checkbox. The number of tasks will get increased when the CPU utilization is greater than 70%. But when it is below 70%, it will not scale in. Let me disable this functionality because I want to perform scale in and scale out as well. And let me give a name to this policy. Let's say Nginx scaling policy. And let me scroll down. Task placement, it is not our important point right now to discuss as part of the basics. Now about volumes. It is optional right now, it is not mandate for it. As I told you before, we have a separate sessions for each and every advanced topics that we have in ECS. Finally, create. Now it started spinning up the service with the cloud formation template. If you refresh this particular page, we can see the desired count is 3 and the actual count is right now 0. Means it is not yet available. They are under creation process. If you want to see what are the tasks it is trying to spin up, you can go to the task tab. And if I refresh, we can see this particular task which is under creation process, and it is not a standalone task because it is managed by a service. For example, if you take autoscaling group in AWS, from the autoscaling group, you are trying to spin up an EC2 instance. If you individually launch an instance from the instance tab, it is called as standalone EC2 instance. If you try to spin up an instance from autoscaling group, it is not a standalone. It is managed by autoscaling group. Similar to that, this particular task is right now, it is not managed individually. It is managed by a service. Or we can say it is controlled by a service. I think if I refresh the page, you can see all the 3 tasks have been created successfully. 1 minute ago, 27 seconds ago, and 28 seconds ago. And we can see this particular task IDs and on which computer it is running right now of EC2. All this particular tasks have been spinned up on individual EC2 instances running on different availability zones. If you want to see the information of this particular task, or we can say the details of the task, you can select the task ID. It will open the page, the detailed information of your task. We can see this whole information. We can see the logs. As of now, there are no logs right now. Network information. Volumes we have not enabled, so there is no point of verifying it. And this is the information of your task. Now, why it is not called as a standalone task? Because it is managed by a service. How I can understand practically? Let us see the demo. Now, what is the meaning of managed by a service? If you try to delete this particular task, any one of them, select and say stopped selected one. In the standalone task, what will happen? Once you delete your task, it will not be recreated by ECS. But this particular task is right now is managed by a service. Since you have deleted, the actual state is right now 2. but the desired state from the service is 3. Since the condition is not matching, your service will come into picture and it will try to spin up one more task to satisfy the desired state. If you refresh and see, a new task has been spinned up 19 seconds ago. This is called as managed task. It is not a standalone. This is one of the way to understand what is the benefit of creating a task from a service. Even if you have a one replication, I would say instead of creating a standalone task, it is better you go with the service. Because unfortunately, if it is got deleted or if there is a failure, again a new task will get spinned up. That is one of the benefit what we have. And the second benefit is nothing but, for example, right now we are using Nginx version as, if you see here, it is 1.25.0. Now I want to upgrade my application. What does it mean? Right now the service what I've created is trying to use Nginx version as 1.25.0. Now there is a new release 1.26.0. If I need to apply the changes, first you have to update the task definition by creating a new revision. Existing revision we cannot modify. In a simple term, we cannot edit it. Can we see any option here? We can only remove the revision or we can create a new revision, but we cannot modify the existing revision right now. The requirement is right now, I want to update the image with the tag called 1.26.0. For that, I need to create a new revision, either by using editor or we can use JSON format. Let me scroll down here and specify 1.26. If you have any doubts, go back to the Docker Hub and search for Nginx official image. There you will see the list of tags that are available. The latest one is 1.27, but instead of using that, I'm using 1.26. The current version is 1.25. I want to upgrade it to 1.26. That's the reason I specified 1.26.0. If you want to provide a patch version, you can update that as well. For now, let me go ahead with this. After that, I don't want to modify any other parameter and say create. What does mean create? It is going to create a new revision for the existing task definition what we have created. We can see this particular tag, a revision number as 2. You can check here. If you want to apply this particular new revision changes to your existing service, my requirement is, if I go back to the cluster, I don't want to delete this existing service, but I want to apply the new changes of my task definition. That is called as updating a service. How we can do that? Select the service and you can click on update. And here we can see revision list. If we select the drop down, here we can see the latest one, revision number 2. And I want to apply the changes. Let us say update the service with this new changes. Now we can say deployment is in progress. This is the new one and this is the old one. You can say 11.21. This is the old deployment status, which is using revision number 1 for the task definition. It is completed. Our expectation is 3 desired tasks and 3 are running. Now we have a new deployment with the same task definition, but the revision number is 2. Now it is trying to apply the changes. What does it mean? It is going to create a task one by one with the new revision number. After that particular deployment was successful, it will disable this one and this one will become active. As of now, this is primary and this is active. Once a primary task is successful, this will become active and this particular version will get removed in the deployment. So for every deployment in the service, you will see a unique ID. We can verify. We can see 3 out of 3. And here you can see the old tasks are getting deleted. If you want to say this particular deployment events for this particular service right now, you can see the event log. Here it will let you know how many tasks it has created, what are those IDs, what it is trying to do. Each and every information will be tracked under events. Means the activity. We can call it as the activity that is performed under this particular service can be pulled from event logs. I think it is not yet updated. Let us wait. But you can see 3 desired and 3 are running. 0 pending. From this, your upgrade was done successfully. If I go back to the task, here we can see the new tasks that have been created 3 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago with the version 1.26.0. You can check all the tasks with the continuous images. Now the changes have been applied successfully. What happened to the old task? You can see them by selecting the filter status as any desired status. And if I scroll down a bit, I think they have been removed from the list. You can't see it right now. Anyways, if I go back to the deployment tabs once again and refresh this particular page, you will see the old deployment has been deleted. Because your job is done, there is no point of using that old deployment. Again, if you want to revert back the changes, means I want to roll back. If there is a failure, it could have rolled back, because in the deployment failure detection, by default it is rollback enabled. If there is a failure in the deployment process for the task what I performed right now. If you want to roll back the changes, what you are supposed to do, we have to go back to the update service, then we have to select the revision with the 1, and then we have to apply the changes. Same way, update service. Now I'm trying to perform rollback and then say update. You can see now the changes are getting applied. We can see the timestamp. By looking at that, we can understand. The current deployment which is active is this one with revision number 2. Now we are applying revision number 1, which is in progress. As of now, I'm teaching you only the fundamentals to understand what is meant by roll out and roll back. Roll out in the sense what? Applying the new changes. That is called as roll out. Generally, what is roll back? Reverting back the changes. For example, you might have found new bugs. I want to revert back the changes so that I can use a previous revision and I can continue with my application usage until the bugs have been fixed. In those conditions, rollback will help you a lot. What I'm doing right now. As part of the basic, this is sufficient. Later, we'll go to the advanced functionalities of this particular rollout, rollback, deployment strategies and all. Which one we have to pick at what time. I think almost it is done. Older tasks are getting deleted. If you want to see them, go to the task, try to filter all, and you can see. You might be seeing 5 here. The older one are getting deleted, which is in progress. You can see here. Out of this, 1 has been stopped, 2 are pending. These 2 will get stopped. I think I can refresh. You can see rest of the 2 have been stopped. Now we have only 3 running with revision number 1 as per our requirement. I think if you see the deployment status, it is successful 100%. And the old deployment will get deleted after a few seconds. Let me refresh once again. Yeah, the old one is getting drained. You can see. After that, it got removed. This is how we have to create a service. Now, since this particular task is controlled by a service, if I try to delete the service, what will happen? All the tasks that you have created as part of this particular service will get deleted. After that, the service will get deleted from the cluster. First, it will remove or you can say it will stop your task, and then it will delete the service. If you try to delete it manually, what will happen? Again, a new task will get spinned up. It will not permanently stop your task. It is going to spin up a new task to replace the existing count. That's the reason why if you want to do a cleanup, delete the service, because the task is now managed by a service, not individually. Select the service and say delete service. Force delete and type delete word, and now select the action delete. And if I go back here, if I refresh and see, all the tasks are getting deprovisioned and then it will stop. You can see they are getting deprovisioned and finally they will get stopped. With this, we have successfully created a service with a replication model, and then we have seen how to perform rollout and rollback and then deleting the service. As part of the basics, this is sufficient for us. Thank you.